Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 204 of the Hammer Territory podcast. I am Scott Coleman, and I am pinch hitting this Memorial Day weekend. Brad is out of town, Sean is out of town, so I am joined on this Sunday evening by the great Stephen Tolbert. And Stephen, based on our text a little earlier, this might be a little bit of an angsty show, but as we always say, win or lose, we always do a pod, and there is certainly a lot to talk about.
Yeah, what's up, buddy? I feel like this is probably the most rare combination of our show. I don't think you and I have done very many of these. Usually we have either Brad or Sean, but both out of town this weekend. Obviously Memorial Day weekend, usually a really fun baseball weekend. Not for the Braves, however. Ronald Acuña Jr. came back. He came back, in style, the way only he can do it, by hitting a 470-foot homer in his first at bat. And it just felt like from that moment, the weekend kind of went downhill. We're going to talk about it all, of course, but yeah, it's not been a great weekend for Braves fans.
No, it has not. And man, let's just kind of do an overall state of the team right now, Stephen, and take stock. We're basically a third of the way into the season or getting really close to it. And I think it's always fair to say that when Memorial Day weekend rolls around, it's no longer early. Like, this is not April 15th and you have the crutch of it's still early and there's still 140 games to go. And sure, there's still 4 months of baseball to be played. And nobody can confidently say they know where this team is going to be come October 1st. But there are continuing trends with this baseball team nightly. And I guess I'll just get your take on the state of the team right now. They're 25-27. They dropped the weekend series to the Padres. They went 1-4 this week after some really good vibes after a great series up at Fenway, winning 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox. I don't know. I think I can tell from your voice and tone that you are frustrated, just like I think everybody is. But, where are you at with this team now that we have basically 2 full months of baseball that we've been able to watch?
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the game that will tell you Memorial Day is kind of when you officially take stock of what you are and who you are. And it's kind of a good sample of it's no longer early, like you just said. You have enough games where trends have emerged and you can really start to judge yourself honestly about what you are. And so my brain is kind of in a tug of war right now between that idea that, who you are on Memorial Day is kind of who you are, and what you need to fix is what you need to fix. And then the other side of my brain is like, we've seen this team in the past. 2022 is a great example where they played like crap for 2 months, got 10 games back of the Mets, and then spent the next 4 months playing like 120 win baseball, and ran down the Mets and won the division. So like I've seen this team 2021, they played like crap for much longer than this and ended up winning a World Series. So every single day on Twitter, my mentions are this team sucks, just accept that this team sucks. And I understand why people are saying that, but like my brain just can't let go of like, we've watched this team in the past get to June, turn it on and be a different club. So I don't know. I kind of have a foot in both camps at the moment where I am this team is what they are, but also I do still believe in the talent of this team to a greater level than this. I might be an idiot, but that's kind of where I am.
No, I am in the same place. And I think maybe the stat of the day and the stat of the last month is this. And I think it kind of plays with what you just said a minute ago, Stephen, about you're kind of in both camps. Is this team bad? Is this team good and they've been unlucky? I mean, it's probably some mixture of all the above. But stat of the day on the podcast. Over the last calendar month, these are the number of runs the Atlanta Braves have lost by. Okay? 2, 1, 1, 7, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, and then they lost today by 2 runs. So of their last 13 losses over the last month, 9 of them were 1-run losses, and 12 out of 13 were by 2 runs or less. And those games are basically coin flips, right? The ball bounces one way for one team, it doesn't bounce for the other team. 50-50 games. It's both incredibly frustrating because I think there's also some shades of like 2021 where, of course, they won the World Series and that year ended at the pinnacle. But getting to that point, especially getting to like August 1st when they finally started to really turn on, it was seemingly every night there was a 1-run loss or a frustrating loss. And I feel like we're kind of going through the same motions again this year. And in no way am I saying this team is going to win the World Series, because I have some real doubts and questions about this team's ability to put it all together consistently like they need to do. But you can also objectively say that if they're losing 1-run games, they're never getting blown out. There was one game they lost. They got smacked by the Dodgers 4 weeks ago. But other than that, they could have won basically every single one of those games. They could have won both games over the weekend against the Padres that they lost. So it's just like you said, it's kind of hard for me to just completely shut this team off as they're not good, because clearly they're in basically every single game that they play.
Yeah, I mean, I think even after today, they have a positive run differential. So having just being below 500 with a positive run differential is not normal. It's not easy. I mean, I think they're like plus 10, so it's not like it's anything crazy. But that's how you do that. You lose a bunch of 1-run games, and in your wins, you blow teams out. And objectively, if we sit down the emotion, set aside the annoyance of watching this team lately, objectively, teams that win a bunch of games by blowing teams out and lose a bunch of games by 1 run are unlucky. That's just objectively true over the long haul of a season. If you score more runs than your opponents on the whole, then your record will eventually reflect it. Now you're not guaranteed of anything. The Padres had one of those seasons a couple years ago where they just couldn't get on the right side of it. So you're not guaranteed anything, but objectively it shouldn't last.
Yeah.
But it is frustrating. Oh my God, it's frustrating. I mean, Friday night, it's a good segue into the game, but Friday night was one of the more frustrating games I've ever watched. And partly because of what you just said, there's so many close games. Every single night is a close game. Even the wins are, 1-2-run games, a lot of the time. So yeah, it's been a frustrating month for sure.
And it feels like in a lot of these recent losses, the Braves have had the lead in the 6th, 7th, 8th, or they're tied. And, this bullpen on the whole, I'd like to get your take on it. I think the bullpen has been okay. It is a far cry from the incredible bullpen that we had last year and really the last couple of years. But it's not just the bullpen. This team offensively cannot figure it out. The starting rotation is really, I think, the one unit that has absolutely held up its end of the bargain, especially losing Ronaldo Lopez 4 days into the year and having Strider for 2 starts where he really wasn't healthy in one of them. Of course, he was coming back from the hamstring this past week. I mean, I think the starting rotation is the reason this team is at least somewhat in the mix. I think as of today, they're only 3 games back of a playoff spot, even if there is a lot of baseball to go. But it's the bullpen, it's the lineup, it's situational hitting, it's situational pitching, it's bad base running, bad defense from certain players lately. I don't know. I guess it's just kind of a combination of all of the above, and it has certainly been frustrating.
The bullpen is not bad, but it's also not a strength. And it's been a strength for so many years in a row. And we're so used to having a great bullpen that having just an average bullpen, which is, I think the Braves are probably just average. I think their numbers are all right around like 15th or 16th in baseball.
Yeah.
They've given up a bunch of homers. Iglesias and Lee specifically have given up a bunch of homers, way more homers than you would expect. So the bullpen's not bad. It's just not great. And that's kind of a switch for the Braves. But listen, it starts with the offense. They just can't score consistently. I mean, they scored 3 runs today. Dylan Cease is tough, but we've just seen this too many times. They scored 1 run on Friday night. You just can't. Sean and I talk about this all the time. When you play this many low-scoring 1- and 2-run games, going on a run of any significance is almost impossible. For the same reason you just said, it literally takes one event during the game to swing a 1-run game one way or the other, and have all of those break your way for 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row is basically impossible. You go on long streaks with your offense, and Acuña's back and he looks good, and that's awesome. But there's some other dudes in this lineup, and just the collective has just been lacking. I don't know why, but it has. It's just been lacking, and that's been the number one reason the Braves have lost games.
Yeah, we will see. And we're going to now dig into the weekend. There was kind of an interesting lineup shift a little bit with Acuna back and moving Drake Baldwin to second and a few other moving pieces as well with Verdugo and Eli White. And of course, 3 games with a lot to talk about. We are going to take a quick moment to hear from our sponsors, but then we will break down the weekend, get into a little bit of roster news and much more. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Kratz, my pup was picky, not anymore with Spot and Tango Unkibble, and it is about 40% less expensive than frozen food. So we're saving in the wallet and we're making our pups happier.
Let's go apples to apples. I'm not cheap, but I don't want to waste my money on something that's good for my dog. This is perfect.
Yeah, they are very excited. Both Bella, Kratz's pup, and Penelope, my little pup, for Spot and Tango. You can get your pup excited too, and there's no more guessing how much to feed your dog either. Spot and Tango creates a custom plan based on your dog's age, weight, breed, and activity level. It's a nice little survey. So upgrade your pet's bowl with Spot and Tango Unkibble for a limited time. Go to spotandtango.com/foul. Use code FOUL to get 50% off your first order. That's spotandtango.com/foul, code foul for 50% off your first order. Spotandtango.com/foul, code foul.
All right, Stephen, let's talk about Sunday afternoon's game. And let's talk Spencer Schwallenbach right off the jump. To me, Schwallenbach was fantastic outside of maybe 2 or 3 pitches that he would really like to have back. 11 strikeouts, no walks over 7 innings. If you would have told me blindly coming into the day that he was going to do that, I would say, oh, baby, Braves won, even against Dylan Cease, who's nasty. But again, it's just right on the margin, right on the thinnest hairs of margin. And again, the Braves came out on the wrong side today.
Well, not only that, but like right at the end as well, like right at the end of his outing, he looked amazing. I mean, I know the results were 4 runs, but they weren't all, I think only 2 of them were earned. 11 Ks, no walks. I mean, when the stuff that I care about pitching, one of, if not his best game of the year. I know he had that really hot start where he gave up 1 run in like the first 20 innings, but 11 strikeouts, tons of swings and miss today. The stuff looked incredible. The homer he gave up to Sheets, obviously the error preceded it, which was a big deal because there were 2 out. Well, the error came with the 0 outs, but eventually he got to Sheets with 2 outs. It was an 0-2 slider. It was off the plate, but it was down and in, which is kind of the no-no spot for a lefty. I don't know. I don't know if you have an opinion on it. It certainly is not where you probably number one want to throw an 0-2 pitch, but I can't. It was off the plate. I don't know. It just, with the way the Braves are going right now, of course that ball ends up in the seats. Any other day that's a pop-up or a rollover to second, but the way the Braves are going, it's in the seats, and the 2-run lead is gone in a blink of an eye.
Well, and it feels like that's kind of been a trend lately where the Braves take a lead and 5 minutes later, the lead is gone.
Yeah.
And it's just such a kick in the you-know-what. It's just kind of another candle on top of the cake, seemingly, when you do this. And one player we wanted to talk about was Austin Riley. Now, earlier in the season, Riley's defense was superb. And the metrics loved him. The eye test loved him. We on this show talked about how good Riley's defense was and the way he's really improved over the years. But over the last 2 weeks, Austin Riley has committed 5 errors. And it feels like whenever Riley commits an error, it's like right in the midst of the pain. It's not like he's committing these errors when the game is 6 runs one way or the other and it doesn't have any impact. But 5 errors in 2 weeks for Riley. He had a really tough error to lead off the fateful 6th inning. A leadoff error to, I think, Luis Ariz in front of Machado and Merrill and Sheets. That is the absolute last place you want to put a free runner on, especially in a game when it was only 3-1 and the Braves had just taken the lead.
Yeah, and Swelly was mowing people down. I mean, he was in a groove. If Riley makes that play, it's one out, nobody on. Probably gets the next two guys probably out of the inning. The butterfly effect, it's not necessarily that everything's going to happen exactly the same way, but still. And it seems like every time Riley makes an error, it immediately costs the team runs. Like it's not like it's just innocuous where it goes unharmed. It just the way the Braves are going right now, every single and listen, this is what I was just talking about. When you play these low scoring 1-run games, every single mistake gets magnified. Every single base running mistake, which we're going to talk about here in a minute when we get to Friday night's game. Every single little mistake matters so much more when you have 2 runs on the board versus if you had 7. Yeah. And, Riley's got to be better. Just full stop. People get so mad at me when I say that. I don't know why Austin Riley is covered in Kevlar by a segment of this fan base. Austin's got to be better. Like offensively, defensively, he's the highest paid guy in the history of the franchise. And whether or not you care about that or not, it doesn't matter. You're held to a higher standard when you're the highest paid guy in the history of the franchise. You just are. And I guarantee you Austin Riley knows that. And he understands that as well as anybody. But he's got to be better. Offensively, he hit 2 home runs against the Dodgers at the very beginning of this month. I think it was like May 3rd. He hasn't hit a home run since. Wow. It's Memorial Day. We're almost at the end of the month. He's gone almost a whole month without a homer. 5 errors in the last 2 weeks. Like, they need this dude to be better. And that's fair to say. And I'm not saying the loss was on him today. That's not fair because the Braves didn't score enough runs to win. But these errors are killers, absolute killers in these close games. And every single time he makes one, it seems like the other team immediately makes the Braves pay for it.
Yeah, there was that one against the Nationals about a week and a half ago that led to the kind of disastrous with – and look, you're right. Austin Riley is not the one throwing the pitches. Right. And you can say if Riley makes an error, sure, it doesn't automatically mean that – I think that night it was Aaron Bummer and Rafael Montero who kind of let things get away. But you're right. It feels like every time it's a Riley error and then the avalanche comes. And you can't have that. Just like you can't have guys U-turning on the base pass like they had on Friday night and blowing leads. And, they blew a 5-0 lead in Fenway Park a weekend ago. It's when you start out 0-7 and then 5-13, you have to play clean baseball. And of course, no team is going to be perfect for 5.5 months after that. But just this team continues to find ways to frustrate us and lose games. And I don't know, Sunday's loss, not a whole lot else. There was a little bit of offense early. The one bright spot, I think, offensively was Ozzie Albies. And we have been critical of Ozzie fairly on this show. He needs to pick it up. But 2 doubles, I think both were off the wall in right field, and a walk, which was really good to see from Ozzie. But besides that, the offense was pretty lifeless and couldn't do a whole lot against Dylan Cease and the San Diego bullpen.
Yeah, I want to give Ozzie his flowers because we have been critical, and I think fairly. I don't think we've been unfair about it. I think Ozzie would tell you he needs to be better. Bowman had the stat that this was the first game of the year that Ozzie had 2 extra base hits in the same game. But 3 of the best at-bats I've seen him take in one game, probably all year. 2 hard doubles, both off the wall, both over 100 miles an hour. A walk, like you said, it was like a 7 or 8 pitch count too. He fouled off a couple pitches and then drew a walk. So yeah, very super encouraging in bats from Ozzie Albies. Man, if he could pick it up, it would help tremendously. We still got to get Michael Harris going. That's a separate conversation. But yeah, Ozzie had a great day. Acuna had another double, another walk. It just, I don't know. The offense is so weird. Like if you look at the individual numbers, Marcel's having a good year, Matt's having a good year. Austin's not having a terrible year, but like if you add it all up, it's just not equaling runs. And there are reasons for that we can get into more detailed later, but like it's just not equaling runs. And until it equals runs, it really doesn't matter what the individual guys are doing. Braves need more runs on the board. And some of it's just hitting with guys on base, hitting with guys in scoring position. But 3 runs is not enough. And they scored 1 run on Friday. The offense has got to be better.
It does. And hopefully, you mentioned Ronald Acuña Jr. in that. Let's hope that Ronald can continue to spark this lineup at the top because really, for my money, the 2 real bright spots of this weekend, Ronald Acuña Jr.'s return and the starting pitching was spectacular, all 3 games.
Yeah.
And that kind of segues us into Saturday night, which was by far and away the most positive outcome of the weekend. Grant Holmes was really, really good. and it was maybe the best start of the year for Holmes. 7 innings, 6 hits, only 1 run, only 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. And even though it's been a little bit of a rocky road at times, Grant Holmes has a 3.68 ERA through 10 starts. His peripherals are kind of more in like the mid-4s, nothing to write home about, but I think totally fine for a 4th or 5th starter. But a big tip of the cap to Holmes, Schwallenbach, and Chris Sale, who more than did their job this weekend.
Yeah, that start by Holmes with the Braves on a 3-game losing streak. 1 walk, I think, was the most important thing you said there. That's been his thing. Walks and homers have really hurt him this year. That's why his peripherals don't look great, because they really penalize walks and homers. But yeah, massive start. And the Braves scored late to blow it open. But like, those were important innings at the time, because the Braves didn't really bust it open until 7th, 8th inning, where they scored on some add-on runs, which was also a lovely surprise. But yeah, huge start from Grant Holmes. Obviously, Chris Sale was incredible. Chris Sale's been incredible for about 4 weeks now, so just kind of come to expect it. Saturday night's game was by far one of the few, like, score early, get good pitching, add on late, kind of easy wins. I feel like we have not had many of those where it's just a easy, breezy, kind of stress-free win. The last 3 innings, you just kind of enjoy it. I know the Braves had 1 in Boston. I can't remember that many more. I know they had a couple in Colorado, but there hasn't been many of those. So
it was just the 5th time all year the Braves have won a game by 6 runs or more. And just the 2nd time at home, the Braves have won a game by 6 runs. And that goes all the way back to the home opener against the Marlins.
Wow.
This is a long time ago.
Wow.
And breezy blowout wins, and this is Captain Obvious, but breezy blowout wins have such a big cumulative effect on everybody.
Yeah.
Because you're saving your bullpen. Everyone kind of takes the night off mentally, at least once you get the game in hand. It was breezy. I mean, the Padres pinch hit for Fernando Tatis Jr. in the 9th inning because the game was over.
Yeah.
Compare that to seemingly every other game this team has played lately, where it's tied or they're down 1 or they're up 1, and we're all biting our nails and hoping that for the best. It was really, really nice. And you mentioned Grant Holmes, fantastic. Ronald Acuña homered, Matt Olson homered, and Matt's been on a real heater. He didn't do a ton on Sunday, but this really, since that Boston series, Matt has been on a tear. And just a good night for the offense. After the team caught a break, Michael King was scratched. That's, it's funny. Michael King got scratched 20 minutes before the game, and I think the natural reaction was, well, great. The Braves haven't hit relievers all year long, and they have done a decent job against the better starters. But that was a nice break. The Braves scored early and often. Drake Baldwin got on base 4 times. Everybody in the lineup had at least 1 hit. It was, again, man, this team needs more of these Saturday night wins, and not this mess that we've had to endure the last month and a half.
Well, it's also the only time they beat the Padres in the last 9 games. I think they're 1-8 against the Padres in the last 9 games, if you count the postseason. So
yeah,
beating the Padres has not been easy. And I don't know why. Sean and I talked about this the other night. When they come to Atlanta, they destroy the Braves in Atlanta. I have no idea why. It's one of those weird things. But like, I don't think the Braves have won a series at home against the Padres since like 2018 or 2017 or something like that. It's crazy. So yeah, a huge win. I mean, obviously we'd be on a 5-game losing streak right now if Grant Holmes doesn't throw that game on Saturday. So, and obviously Friday night wasn't great.
All right, Stephen, we are now going to talk about Friday night's game and then also some news saying farewell to Orlando Arcia, preview a big series on the horizon against the Philadelphia Phillies, and much more. But first, another quick word from our sponsors.
If you're a card collector or you'd like to get into card collecting, may I suggest Arena Club and slab packs, which means that you can rip the packs digitally and, of course, get the card that you want. It's also the most trusted name in the game, and I would rather rip packs these days on my phone than sit next to you and have you grabbing one of my physical packs if I was grabbing one.
Yeah, you don't need me grabbing your packs, because last time you grabbed one, it ended up like this card. So let's not have that, and that's why Arena Club is great. They send them to you in these
fancy protectors like this Scout Braun card that we have here, and they'll come safe. They're already graded. Or you could do like I do and just leave my cards in the showroom and never actually see them physically.
Yeah.
But they're safe, protected, and if I want to sell them, I can.
Buy, sell, trade. They offer full transparency, showing every card in the slab pack with the likelihood of pulling each one so you know exactly what's available before you buy. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use code FOUL.
All right, Stephen, we are going to talk about Friday night. Let's hit on the two positives of that game, and then we will lament the now infamous ninth inning. But Ronald Acuña Jr. coming up, first game in 364 days, and launching a 468-footer first pitch, just absolutely clobbered. I had goosebumps in the moment. Truist went nuts. I mean, it was just a storybook Disney movie type of setting for Acuna. And I know the weekend was frustrating, but it's so good to have Ronald back. And let's hope he can go on a tear that keeps sparking this lineup and hopefully gets the Braves winning more games like we want to see them do.
116 miles an hour on the first swing you've taken in a year. That's the hardest hit ball the Braves have had all season. And it took Acuna one at bat to do it. You know, Ian Osiris put out a good tweet about how max exit velocity tells us a lot about what a player is physically capable of doing. And that ball Ronnie hit was also harder than any ball he hit last year. And you can just tell, you know, people remember that Ronnie hurt his knee at the end of May last year, but people forget that Ronnie also hurt his knee in the middle of spring training last year and missed like 3 weeks. And when he came back, he was never right. Like anybody that watched him over the first month and a half last year before he got hurt for the year, he was not right. He was never right. And that Eno's tweet made me think of that. Was like, this dude is, you can, by that literally one swing, you can already tell he is substantially better off now than he was even last year before he tore his ACL for good. So massive. I had goosebumps too. It was I mean, the place was going nuts. It was so good to see him back. He's just a dynamic all-world talent. The best player on the team, obviously one of the best players in the league. The whole league, everybody in the league was tweeting about this home. I mean,
yeah,
Jeff Passan, like there was NFL beat writers tweeting about this Acuna. I mean, it was literally a like all league enjoying this at the same time. It was just awesome. I know the Braves lost the game. It's still an incredible moment. One of the top moments of the year, probably.
Yeah, I forget which national writer, but somebody said baseball is better when Ronald Acuña Jr. is healthy and hitting balls 468 feet.
Yeah.
And Ronald looked about as good as you could humanly hope for. 2 homers, a double on Sunday, drew a couple of walks. And even when Ronald was making outs, we were reminded quickly just how great and how special of a baseball player this is, because he doesn't give away outs. Maybe he strikes out, but you're going to have to throw 8 or 9 pitches to strike him out.
Yeah.
Or maybe he grounds a ball, but it's going to be 98 miles an hour right at the shortstop. He's just such a complete and special player. And, you know, I wanted to ask, Stephen, you have Acuna back now in the leadoff spot. What do you make of Drake Baldwin batting second? Obviously, Sean Murphy's also going to play, and I don't know if Snit necessarily wants to have 2 entirely different lineups based on who's catching, but I also don't think Murphy batting second is like a miscarriage of justice by any means, and Baldwin has just been so special early on. So what do you make of this lineup right now, and what would you do if you were filling out the lineup card?
That's a great question. I actually really liked Baldwin in the 2-hole.
Yeah, me too.
That made sense to me. Dropping Riley down to 5. I mean, you kind of have to at this point, honestly. You know, what you do with Ozzie and Harris and, you know, 6, 5 and 6, 6 and 7, I don't know. The problem is the Braves just have like 4 guys right now that you're like, it'd be nice if we could bat him 9th, but you can't. So, yeah, I don't know when Murphy is playing, I'm guessing they're not going to do that. I'm guessing they're going to go back to, I don't know. Ozzy's hot right now. I could honestly see Snit putting Ozzy back in the 2-hole when Murphy catches. I don't love Ozzy in the 2-hole. Honestly, if it were me, what I would do is I would put Acuna 1, Olsen 2, because those are your 2 best hitters. And then Ozuna 3. That's what I would do. And make sure that no matter what happens at the end of the game, if there's only 3 guys that get a 5th at bat, those 3 guys are Acuna, Olsen, and Ozuna. Because I can't stand when you get to the 9th inning of a game, you only got 3 guys who are getting that extra at bat, and one of them is not one of your best hitters, and that always pisses me off. So if I'm ever filling out a lineup card on this team, Acuna's 1, Olsen's 2, Ozuna's 3. I don't think that's how Snit will do it, but that's how I would do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if, it kind of feels like it's tinkering with the lineup time. If, there's lineup optimization statistically, but team's not scoring.
I would not be surprised at all if the next time we see a lineup, Ozzy's batting second. It would not surprise me at all.
I wouldn't either. Yeah, Tuesday night, Philadelphia, Ozzy Albies batting second.
Yeah.
I could see it. I could see him running the catchers out there. I could see him kind of stacking his best players.
Oh, and I want to make a point about Acuna. I noted this. Looked incredibly comfortable in the field, which is the area I'm probably most concerned about, like how he would look. Was running really well, had a couple balls down the line where normally those would be doubles. He held them to singles. Nobody wanted to test his arm. And then somebody finally tested his arm and he threw him out by a mile at second. Almost threw a guy out at home today if the ball wasn't hit so softly. But he looked really good in the field. And I was not expecting that, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that arm, that thing is a laser beam.
And a howitzer.
Yeah, it's incredible. So good to have Ronald out there. Looks healthy. Looks like he's having fun. Not a small thing, too, that originally I think the Braves were expecting Ronald to sit on Sunday after playing Friday and Saturday. But after Saturday night, Ronald told Snit, hey, I'm good to go. We'll see what the next couple of weeks hold. I think they still should be cautious. If that knee even is a tiny bit sore, I think you give Ronald the night off. Can't risk it. As great as he is.
How he feels after playing 3 straight 9-inning games, like how he feels tomorrow, probably is a pretty significant barrier for him. I don't think he only played 1 9-inning game in Gwinnett, so he's just played 3 in a row. They get a day off tomorrow, so how he feels tomorrow is probably a pretty big deal.
Yeah, definitely. So let's hope all's well with that knee. Defense looked good. The only thing we didn't see from Ronald this weekend was a stolen base.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, I think based on what we've seen, they're at least going to tell Ronald to be really cautious stealing, at least until maybe in a couple weeks or a month, we see him be a little more aggressive on the bases. But, 2022, he ran like you wouldn't know any different.
Yeah.
2023, obviously, he ran like a madman. I don't think we're going to see that this year, but hey, if all's well and the doctors say the knee looks good in a couple weeks, then if you want to start turning him loose on the bases, then go ahead.
It was notable to me. You might have tweeted this. Somebody tweeted this that I follow, that in the first inning when he walked and Drake Baldwin got to a 3-2 count, that he didn't steal. It was you. You tweeted this.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't steal either time when Baldwin fouled a pitch off and he didn't steal and he didn't steal again, that was pretty indicative that in the past, that's 100% good. He would go every time there. The fact that he didn't is probably a pretty good indication they're going to limit him as much as they can.
And Acuna did run on Friday night when Riley was up there. Admittedly, I didn't see most of Friday night's game, which is funny because now we're going to talk about the very, very, very frustrating 9th inning. But yes, I think it's fair to say, just to kind of summarize, will he or won't he run? They're going to be careful with Ronald and protect that prized pony as much as you can. Friday night, let's not kill Eli White anymore. I am sure nobody on earth felt worse about Eli White, you turning it on the bases, than Eli White did. He talked to the media. He took accountability. It does not excuse the fact that he did something that I will never know. I know he was confused. I think you can probably throw a little bit of blame on the third base coach for not pointing at the bag instead. I saw some of that discourse, point to the bag instead of hold up your hands. But why? Why are you turning it? The crowd was roaring, so it was pretty obvious that the ball had landed. So I was at dinner with friends thank God for that, or else I probably would have lost my mind even more so than I did. But not a good moment for Eli White, not a good moment for the Braves, and another frustrating game that was very much 50-50 going to the ninth inning.
I mean, I was so mad because we had just come off the game in Washington where Austin Riley got thrown out by a mile at the plate.
Yeah.
The game in Boston where Verdugo got thrown out by a mile at the plate. So you have that as the context and the backdrop. And then I've never seen somebody pull a U-turn. Like, once you decide that you're going to run at the crack of the bat, and that's what he did, and he made a great read because that ball went right over his head, and he had to decide instantly if that's going to fall or not, and he decided it's going to fall, I'm going. Once you make that decision, there's no going back. Like, if he catches it, you're just out. And that's fine. I'm fine with that level of aggressiveness. But I just don't understand how you ever, on what universe, what planet, you ever get to the point where, like, oh, I need to turn around and run back. And I understand, like, Tuiasosopo had his hands up instead of pointing to the bag. That debate went on in my mentions for 36 hours after that. I'm sure it did the same with you. I had to mute every single one of them. I was tired of listening to it. But there just should be no planet where you even consider running back to second. I mean,
yeah.
And that I told you, I literally had to walk outside and like talk to my grass for like 20 minutes because I told Brad, like, if we had done a podcast that night, we would have 100% been fired because that was as mad as I've been in a long time about watching the Braves. And a lot of it was because of how they got thrown out at the plate multiple times, the 2 series before. Yeah. So he apologized. He took ownership of it. I understand Tuiasosopo is not like the greatest third base coach of all time. It was a big deal. The Braves were down by 1 and they were going to have runners on first and third with 1 out, I think. So it probably did cost the Braves the game, but just like the Braves are just making up ways to lose games at this point. And it sucked because it was Ronald's debut and Sale pitched so damn good. It just, Iglesias gave up another homer on a slider, which we can talk about if you want to. I don't really want to, but it's just a really highly, highly frustrating game.
Yeah, definitely a frustrating night. And Sale did his job. I don't know, Steven. The Raisel Iglesias experiment and experience has just been shocking, jarring. I don't know whatever word you want to use is probably fair. I mean,
Snit said after the game that they're going to tell him to not throw the slider, which I don't know if I've ever heard. Like, he's a 3-pitch guy. He's used that slider every year since he's been here. It's just a funny thing to me. They're like, no, we're not taking him out of the closer spot, but we're just going to tell him to stop throwing the slider because he keeps hanging. He's given up 7 homers. I think 5 have been on sliders. So yeah, that was funny to me. I was already in a bad mood, and when I heard him say that, I just laughed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you look at like pitch data, that slider has been arguably the worst pitch thrown by a reliever in Major League Baseball this year.
Yeah, he hangs it 1 out of every 3 times.
Yeah. Been a weird year, a frustrating year. So, of course, the Braves dropped Friday's game, lose 2 out of 3 to San Diego. There was a little bit of news on Friday, which feels like an eternity ago, but there was. The Braves officially bid farewell, or at least we think they've said farewell, to Orlando Arcia. Now, let's do our 2-minute farewell, Orlando. Obviously, the last year plus have not been good for Orlando on the field. But this guy really did fill a nice role in the first half of 2023. And frankly, the Braves were just kind of okay with Arcia being mediocre-ish the last 2+ years. The problem is that Arcia is no longer mediocre-ish. The defense had fallen off a cliff. The bat was never there. And I think you said it best, Steven. Once Nick Allen took his job, Arcia is kind of like a useless bench player because he doesn't do anything specifically that you look for when building out a bench.
Yeah. And I don't want to just kick a guy while he's down. Like, Arcia really did have a really good run for a minute there where when he was still a plus defensive shortstop, he did have power. I think he hit 17 homers or something like that in 23. He was an all-star. I mean, seems like a forever ago, but and the dude was making $2 million the whole time. So He was not good. The last 2 years were very bad. I said at the time he lost the job, he made no sense as a bench piece. Not fast enough to pinch run. He's not good enough to pinch hit. You're never taking Nick Allen. You're never subbing Nick Allen for Arcia for defensive purposes. Nick Allen's way better. And if something happened to Nick Allen, like Luke Williams or Eli White can cover shortstop for 2 innings, and then you can call somebody up the next day. So it didn't make sense to me to have him on the roster. I was surprised they made that move. Acuna was actually – I don't know if you saw his quote. He was like, had I known that would have been the move, I would have stayed in Gwinnett a couple more days. Like his teammates love him. He is adored in that clubhouse, and that matters. It doesn't matter on our end, but it matters substantially on their end. So I hated it for him, but I think it was the right move. It's the move I would have made. And there's just other guys that are more useful on the bench than he is. And he might, I wouldn't be stunned if they signed him to a minor league deal to keep him in AAA. In AAA, he actually does help, because if something did happen to Nick Allen, you could then call up Arcia to be at least a shortstop for you, because the Braves don't have a ton of shortstop depth in the organization, as everyone knows. But yeah, it's the move I would have done, but it was a bummer, because he did have a role on the team that was important a couple of years ago. He just lost the skills, and the defensive skills, I think, were the most important ones. Once he lost those, the team was out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially at a position like shortstop, defense, you can be good defensively, and then you drive off the cliffside and it is gone.
Yeah.
There's a reason there's not many shortstops in Major League Baseball into their 30s, because defense almost always peaks early on, more athleticism and all that. It was jarring within a couple of games. Even I think we said it on the podcast. It was like, wow.
No, his range is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had heard similar things. We had Justin Toscano of the AJC on during spring training. And even he was like, the Braves might play Nick Allen a lot more than people think. And credit to Justin for being on that, because defensively, that's night and day from.
And I think that was one of your. Didn't you predict that at the beginning?
I did.
That Arcia would lose his job by like May 1st or something.
Yeah, every now and then I blind squirrel, nut, all those things. But yeah, so we'll see. Officially on Sunday, the Braves released Orlando. I am guessing he will probably try to catch on with a major league deal somewhere else. I mean, he is a backup shortstop, so he might be able to get on with the team. But if he doesn't, maybe the Braves can bring Orlando back on a minor league deal and stash him, because you're right. I mean, I still don't think, correct me if I've missed something, but I still don't think Nacho Alvarez is playing anywhere. I think he's still hurt. Yeah. So there's nothing. God forbid. It's funny, for a shortstop with like a 650 OPS, God forbid something happened to Nick Allen, this team would be in like legitimate trouble if something happens to Nick.
Well, I saw Nicky Lopez hit the free agent market a couple of days ago. I honestly thought like they're 100% Alex is going to sign Nicky. Like, not only does he love reunions, he loves, great shortstops who can't hit. So, I would not be surprised at all to see them sign somebody to Gwinnett as just emergency if Nick Allen pulls a hamstring or something.
The Braves did trade for infielder Jonathan Ornelas. I think that's how you say his name, from the Texas Rangers for cash. Jonathan, not really a major league piece, but hey, you have to have depth is never a bad thing in the minor leagues, and for cash, probably minimal money, and we'll see. But you're right. If the Braves reunite with Arcia or try to reunite with Nicky Lopez, hey, the more the merrier. If they're willing to hang around in the minors or accept a backup deal, we will see. All right, Stephen. So for some reason, the Braves don't play on Memorial Day. That's very weird to me, but what are you going to do? They do, though, have 3 very, very, very important games coming up against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies are unbelievably hot right now. I believe they are tied with the Detroit Tigers for the best record in the majors. Philadelphia finally lost today to the Oakland Sacramento A's. But before that, they had won, I think, 9 in a row. And we're credit to Philadelphia. And imagine that. The Phillies have played a really soft schedule lately, and they have kicked the crap out of teams like the Pirates and the Rockies and the A's. Imagine that. Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of going like 6-6 against the bottom dwellers like the Braves just did. So credit to the Phillies for beating bad teams. And now they have an 8.5 game lead in the division as June approaches.
Yeah, I was initially pretty pissed that the Braves were off tomorrow, like the idea of being off on Memorial Day. Brad made the point that because Philly's on the West Coast, and the series is in Philadelphia, that the Phillies probably physically could not play tomorrow. So that's probably why. And honestly, the way the Braves played this weekend, I'm actually okay. I'm going to go hang out at a pool tomorrow and not even think about this team.
I'm going to do the same.
Yeah. So I'm actually not that upset about it anymore. But you're right. Massive series. I mean, 8.5 games back. I said at the beginning that this season kind of reminds me of 2022 a little bit. Well, here you go. Braves have dug themselves another massive division hole. They did it last year too and couldn't dig out of it. Obviously, they made the playoffs, but they were a wild card team.
Yep.
Listen, the Diamondbacks won 89 games last year and did not make the playoffs. The National League is deeper than it's ever been. The Braves cannot afford to just assume that like 85 wins is going to get you into the postseason, because I don't think it will. And even if the division is not, it's too early to call the division, but the Braves cannot just, they can't sink like this for too much longer, because the National League is too good. The American League is different. The American League is not nearly as deep, but the National League is deep as hell. And I don't know that 87, 88 wins is going to get you into the postseason. It might take 90 wins. It took 89 last year, and the Diamondbacks missed at 89. So they got to get going. And it's a tough stretch. The Phillies are obviously very good. The Padres are very good. We'll see. I've kind of given up trying to, hoping that this team is going to win. I'm just, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, 3 very important games. If this team ever wanted to wake up, be a great week for it, especially with the Phillies playing well. The Mets have, I think, 6 games against the Mets are on the short horizon. They're about to see the Braves are about to play the Giants. They're about to play the Diamondbacks. I mean, this is a really tough stretch of schedule, and the pitching matchups are pretty daunting. The Phillies are going to throw Ranger Suarez in game 1. They will throw Zach Wheeler in game 2, because Zach Wheeler pitches every single time these two teams play.
It's unreal.
He'll be retired. Like, Zach Wheeler will be 58 years old, and he'll still come out for one day to pitch against the Braves and throw.
Did they set it up that? There's no way. He has not missed a Braves series in like 6 years. I swear to God.
Legitimately. Like, dude always pitches against the Braves. He's always good. Maybe the best, most consistent pitcher in baseball the last 5 years or so now. So Suarez, then Zach Wheeler, and then Christopher Sanchez, who is really good himself on Thursday. Braves will see 2 lefties, so we'll see what they do with the lineup. I'm guessing we'll probably see a little more Sean Murphy than Drake Baldwin. Maybe it is an opportunity to get Ozzie Albies at the top, like you kind of suggested or thought about out loud earlier in the show, even though Ozzie has not hit lefties at all this year. So we'll see. Does it, at this point, hit whoever? As long as Nick Allen's not batting in the top of the lineup, whatever. You want to bat Michael Harris second, bat Michael Harris second. You want to hit Marcell Ozuna 6th, hit Marcell Ozuna 6th. Clearly, it doesn't matter, Stephen, because this team can't score runs. I mean, seriously, as long as Nick Allen is not batting above 8th, whatever,
I might put Nick Allen at 9, put Acuna at 1, and then just draw names out of the hat for the rest of the 7. I really might.
Yeah. Hey, can't be any worse. I mean, seriously. Yeah. So, big series on the horizon. Hopefully this team kind of rejuvenizes a little bit on a day off on Monday. Of course, Philly's very good. It's going to be a real challenge. The Braves will throw Spencer Strider on Tuesday. That is notable. Spencer will have had another full week since his not very good start in D.C. to recover. So all eyes will be on Spencer Strider on Tuesday. And then A.J. Smith-Shawver, who similarly will be very interesting to see how A.J. looks after his probably worst start of the season in his last start against the Nats. And then Chris Sale on Thursday. The Braves will really look for Sale to close out that series with a win. So big series on the horizon. The Braves do not want to fall any more back than 8.5 games in the East. And a series win against Philadelphia in Philly would go such a long way for just the vibe and the mental state of this team, especially after a really frustrating weekend against the Padres.
Yeah, it was actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, my memory might be wrong, but I think it was the Phillies that the Braves beat the series they won after the 0-7 start. Wasn't the first
It was
series?
the Marlins.
Oh, it was
Marlins
the
and then
Marlins.
Phillies.
It was then the Phillies. Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but the Braves did win a series against Philly earlier this year. That was at home, of course. But that's tough pitching. Ranger Suarez, for some reason, the Braves have not been able to figure out Ranger Suarez the last few years. Christopher Sanchez is nasty. I was actually hoping to catch Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola is not having a great year. But such is the luck. Yeah. Need the offense. It's about the offense. And yeah, you're exactly right. How Spencer Strider and AJ Smith-Shawver look are going to be massive storylines.
So, big series on the horizon. We, of course, will have plenty of podcast coverage this upcoming week. I think we'll probably do a show after most of these Phillies games, especially if there is something to talk about, and there seemingly always is. Stephen, that's all I got for tonight. It is Memorial Day weekend. We hope we did Brad and Sean proud. They are off doing things probably a little more fun than talking about this weekend's baseball games, but we'd like to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to everybody who served and everything you have done for our country. And if you have anything else, Stephen, please feel free to share. Otherwise, we will get on out of here.
Yeah, we very much Hammer Territory, and you guys don't care about numbers, but Hammer Territory just had one of our biggest quarters. You guys, the support that you guys have shown our show has just been unreal, quite honestly. So incredibly grateful. I know the team has been highly frustrating, but we're going to be here to cover it no matter what, win or lose, like 4 or 5 times a week at this rate. So we appreciate it, and everybody have a happy Memorial Day.
I echo everything Stephen just said. Again, big thank you to everybody for checking out the show. We'll be back this week. Plenty of content on the horizon. For Stephen Tolbert, I am Scott Coleman. Hope everybody out there has a great rest of your weekend, great Memorial Day. We'll be back with more plenty soon, and see everybody next time.